Angle blades are a very versatile tool for scraping and leveling material like rocks, gravel, or dirt. Begin by backing the tractor up to the angle blade slowly, keeping the 3-point hitch aligned with the angle blade links. When the 3-point hitch is close enough to the angle blade to be connected, park the tractor. Adjust the height of the angle blade using the trailer jack until the lift arm pins are at the same level as the draft link hitch points. Manipulate the draft link hitch points onto the lift arm pins. Once the lift arm pins are inside the lower hitch points, use locking pins to secure the lower link arms on both sides. Twist the top link to make it shorter or longer until the top link hitch points are aligned at both ends, with the tractor's center link on one end and the angle blade's center hitch point on the other end. Insert 2 link pins, one connecting the tractor to the top link and another connecting the top link to the angle blade. Once the angle blade is securely connected to the 3-point hitch, attach the angle blade's hydraulic hoses from the attachment to the tractor's hydraulic couplers. Clean the hydraulic hoses before connecting them to the couplers and make sure they are not leaking hydraulic oil. Before working with this attachment, an angle blade must be leveled in order to work properly. Adjust the height of the angle blade on either side by adjusting the length of the right link arm with a crescent wrench. When parked on a flat, level surface, measure the height from the ground to the center of the lift arm pins. Both sides should measure the same distance from the ground. Next, measure the distance from the tires to the left and right sides of the angle blade's mold board. Then, mark a point on the angle blade's adjustable column that will serve as a visual guide to the operator, indicating when the angle blade is squarely perpendicular to the hitch. When operating the angle blade, use the rock shaft control lever to raise and lower the attachment, and the hydraulics to adjust the angle of the mold board. The auger is a tractor attachment that is used to drill holes in the ground. The auger is mounted to the back of the tractor using the 3-point hitch and is driven by the tractor's PTO. The rock shaft position control lever raises and lowers the auger. Connect the center link arm of the auger to the center link of the tractor using a link pin and locking pin. Insert the auger's lift arm pins into the draft link hitch points of the 3-point hitch on both sides and insert the locking pins. Now that the auger is connected to the 3-point hitch, raise the arms using the rock shaft control lever. Have a spotter help you connect the auger's PTO shaft to the tractor's PTO. Once it is connected, test the PTO operation and prepare for work. Before drilling, mark your spot on the ground with high visibility paint. Slowly back the tractor towards the mark on the ground. Lower the auger to the ground using the rock shaft control lever. Next, engage the PTO. Run the engine at a slow speed until the auger digs into the ground, and clear the auger frequently. Lower the auger into the ground slowly, 12 to 15 inches into the ground, and then raise it up and out of the hole. Lower the auger again and drill deeper, then raise it up once again. Repeat this cycle until the desired depth is reached. Disengage the PTO shaft and raise the auger from the hole. This may require a slow rotation of the auger. Engage the PTO and spin the material off of the bit. Your post hole is now ready for the next phase of the job. The backhoe is a complex piece of equipment, and hand-eye coordination is a must. Be sure to use 3 points of contact when climbing into the cab. Facing the front of the backhoe while sitting in the operator's seat, you will see the center control console. Here, there are various switches and levers for machine control. The horn is operated via a button at the end of the transmission direction lever. Always ensure that the horn is operational before using the machine. Below the console are the brake and accelerator pedals. To the left is the differential lock control foot switch, and to the right is the transmission speed control. Press the neutralizer button on this to select the gear you want to use. It is possible to select 4 forward and 4 rearward travel gears. To the right of the speed control is the loader control and parking brake. Turn to your right. You'll see the side instrument cluster. Here you will find the starter key switch, tachometer, fuel level, diagnostic display, and engine coolant temperature. In addition, you will also see switches for rear work lights and the rear wiper. Below this cluster is the cab air recirculation filter. When the airflow is reduced, remove the filter and clean it with compressed air of no more than 30 psi. The cab fresh air filter is located outside above the rear wheel and should be inspected and cleaned weekly as well, or more often in dusty conditions. The starter switch has 3 positions: off, on, and start. Rotate the seat around to access the backhoe and extendable stick controls. To your left is the boom lock lever for the backhoe apparatus, the levers to raise and lower the stabilizers, and the throttle control for backhoe operations. Before starting the engine, make sure you are fully aware of the location and function of each control. While this is the standard instrument cab and control layout for this backhoe, your machine may differ. Please consult the operator's manual for this specific backhoe you will be using. Welcome to ODOT's backhoe training. These videos are by no means a replacement for your manual. They are simply visual aids in addition to the manual. The backhoe is one of the most essential pieces of equipment at ODOT. From trenching and material handling to cleanup operations and snow removal. This versatile machine is an important part of your daily operations. We'll be covering the safety, maintenance, inspection, and operation of the Caterpillar backhoe. Before we focus on this piece of equipment, let's focus on you. Since 1937, ODOT has lost over 50 employees killed in the line of duty. That's why the department cannot stress enough how important it is to stay safe and alert. Safety starts with you. A good way to practice safe work procedures is by using the required PPE or personal protective equipment. This consists of, but is not limited to, an ODOT-approved, ANSI-certified Class 3 safety vest with sleeves, a highly reflective hat that is bright and clean, and a pair of sturdy gloves. Keep in mind that the gloves reduce the sensitivity of your hands, which may affect your ability to operate some backhoe controls. You may also need to wear eye and hearing protection if the job calls for them. Equally as important as wearing the proper safety gear is your individual awareness. Most backhoe operations require complete attention and both hands. Try to avoid talking to other people while you are operating the backhoe. If you do need to speak with someone, it is best to do so while the machine is idle. Any ODOT employee who is required to drive as part of their duties must possess a valid Oklahoma driver's license. Also, as a transportation equipment operator, you must possess a Class A CDL. Having a driver's license also comes with the responsibility of knowing when you shouldn't drive or operate heavy equipment. Be sure to notify your supervisor if things such as fatigue, a medical condition, or medication might prevent you from safely performing your job. For your personal safety, Oklahoma legislation prohibits a state employee from texting while driving a state vehicle or operating heavy equipment. Tobacco use and the use of e-cigarettes is prohibited on all state property. This includes the backhoe. Staying safe also means knowing your equipment. Be sure to read the operator's manual to familiarize yourself with the backhoe you'll be operating. Remember, always use 3 points of contact when entering or exiting the backhoe. Either 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet and 1 hand should be used at all times to support your weight. Always wear your seatbelt and obey all traffic laws and safety precautions. The backhoe is strictly a one-person machine. Never allow anyone to ride with you, either in the cab, loader bucket, dipper bucket, or side step. While the backhoe is one of the most versatile pieces of equipment you will use at ODOT, it is also potentially the most dangerous. Make certain you follow all safety requirements when operating your equipment. Let's begin by taking a look at the basic components that make up the backhoe. Beginning in the front, we have the loader bucket assembly. This is mainly used for moving stockpiled material, but can also be used to clear snow and remove debris. The next component is the tractor. This contains the engine and operator cab and controls. The last component, at the rear, is the backhoe. Used for trenching operations, this consists of the boom, stick, and bucket. The stick may also be extendable depending on the backhoe model. Another important component is the stabilizer arms. These must be used at all times when you're trenching to stabilize the machine and prevent tipping. In order to keep your backhoe in operational condition and safe to use, you will need to occasionally perform basic preventative maintenance. When performing maintenance and making adjustments to the backhoe, wear the right safety gear for the job. Make sure the machine is on level ground. Before accessing the engine compartment, install the lift cylinder brace to prevent accidental movement of the loader apparatus. To do so, raise the loader, remove the pin that secures the LCB, and allow the brace to contact the lift cylinder rod. Push the pin through the lower holes on the brace and install the cotter pin. Slowly lower the loader arms until the brace contacts the top of the lift cylinder. Always use the lift cylinder brace when the loader arms are raised for backhoe service and maintenance. Raise the engine guard and remove the engine access panels. Inspect the drive belts to ensure they're in good condition and free from cracks and frays. Inspect the air filters by removing the housing. Remove the primary and secondary filter elements from the housing. Hold the primary filter up to a light source and inspect it for cleanliness and to ensure the pleats and seals are not damaged or torn. If the filter is dirty, either replace it or clean it from the inside out using compressed air of no more than 30 psi. The secondary filter should not be cleaned. Replace it every third time the primary filter is cleaned. Do not tap, strike, or wash the filters. Wipe down the inside of the filter housing. Reinstall the filters and filter housing. Some backhoes are equipped with an air filter service indicator. To check the engine oil level with the engine off, pull out the dipstick and wipe it off. Reinsert it and pull it out again to get an accurate reading. The level should fall between the add and full marks. Add oil if necessary via the filler tube. To check the hydraulic oil level, ensure the hydraulic pressure is relieved. Use the sight gauge to check the fluid level. Top up if necessary. Do not overfill the hydraulic tank. Locate and inspect the fuel filter system and water separator. It may be necessary to drain water from the separator. please refer to the appropriate maintenance manual for proper procedure and interval. Inspect all engine compartment hoses and hydraulic lines for leaks. Use caution and follow the proper procedure, as fluid under pressure can penetrate the skin, causing serious injury. Have leaks repaired before using the backhoe. This model of backhoe has a sealed brake system and can only be serviced by an authorized dealer. However, you can test the brakes. Refer to the appropriate maintenance manual for the proper procedure. Check the brake fluid level in your backhoe by directly checking the reservoir. Also, check the brake system for leaks. Check the coolant level in the coolant reservoir. The level must fall between the two marks on the reservoir. If necessary, remove the cap and add more coolant solution. Wait for the engine to cool before removing the fill cap. Hot coolant is under pressure and can spray out, causing injury. If at some point you need to change fluids or filters on your backhoe, please refer to the appropriate maintenance manual for these procedures. Follow steps to prevent environmental contamination when performing maintenance on your backhoe. Promptly contain and clean up any spills. If you notice a leak, use drip pans until the machine can be repaired. Do not allow liquids or dry cleanup materials to enter a stormwater drainage system. Inspect the radiator and ensure there are no damaged fins and that it is free of debris. Refer to the appropriate maintenance manual for proper cleaning procedures. Inspect the battery cables, and electrical wiring for damage. Check the front and rear wheel nuts to ensure they are properly tightened. Also, check the tire pressure in each tire. Check the pressure on cold tires and be careful not to exceed the recommended pressure. A burst tire can cause serious injury. Tire inflating pressure varies according to the load weighing on the axles. It is important to have a clean windshield if the backhoe is so equipped. Open the windshield washer reservoir and check the level. Top up if necessary. Check the working attachments for wear and tear. There can be as many as 30 lubrication points or grease zerks on both the loader assembly and the dipper assembly. Use a grease gun to apply the necessary amount of lubricant to the points, first making sure to wipe any dirt or contaminants off of the zerks before attaching the grease gun. Additionally, the tractor component may also have grease zerks on the drive line, door hinges, and axles. It is also necessary to inspect the extendable stick, if so equipped, for proper lubrication. Before applying new grease on sliding surfaces, clean and remove all dirt accumulation and contaminants. The battery master switch is located in the engine compartment and is used to completely disconnect the battery from the electrical system. The positions vary for different backhoe models. Please consult your operator's manual. The switch should be switched off at the end of each working day for service or for any maintenance of electrical systems. Please refer to the appropriate maintenance manual for all maintenance intervals. When starting the machine, check that the operator seat is properly locked in the loader attachment position. Adjust the seat and fasten your seatbelt. Set the parking brake and ensure the throttle control is in low idle. The direction of travel lever should be in neutral, and so should the gear shift. Turn the starter switch key to the start position and release it once the engine is running. Do not crank the engine for more than 30 seconds and wait 2 minutes before you attempt to start it again. With the engine running, check the gauges and indicator lamps. Let the machine warm up for 5 minutes. Cycle the control stick to warm up the hydraulic fluid. No two job sites are the same, and to ensure safe operation, it may be necessary for you to walk the site to identify any potential hazards. Raise the loader attachment approximately 6 inches off the ground. Control your speed using the accelerator pedal and monitor your instruments frequently. This backhoe is equipped with ride control. Activating this stabilizes the machine for travel over rough terrain. Some backhoes have the option of operating in two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, as well as two-wheel and four-wheel steering. Please refer to the operator's manual for your machine's capabilities. Additionally, you may want to set the differential lock by pressing the floor pedal or the console switch depending on your model of backhoe. This is particularly useful when the wheels have insufficient grip. At times, it may be necessary to traverse a slope. You should first attempt to locate an alternate route. If none exists, then the machine's stability can be increased by swinging the backhoe attachment upslope and lowering the downhill stabilizer. This will move the machine's center of gravity away from the downhill wheels, thus increasing stability. When performing this maneuver, be alert to avoid striking ground objects. Always traverse a slope slowly. Traveling fast over rough sloping ground can cause the machine to bounce and rock from side to side, which in turn increases the chances of a rollover. Prior to transporting the backhoe, you must know the height and weight of your machine and make sure the truck and trailer are properly sized. Make sure the parking brake is functioning properly. Block the front and rear wheels of the trailer. Also, make sure the trailer is cleared of ice, snow, or grease. Slowly drive the machine onto the center of the trailer for maximum stability. Apply the parking brake and move the direction of travel lever to the neutral position. Stop the engine. Engage the hydraulic lockout switch if the backhoe is so equipped, and move all hydraulic control levers to relieve any trapped pressure. Release the boom lock lever and lower the backhoe bucket to the bed of the trailer. Use 6 chains to fasten the machine to the trailer. Attach the chains to the lifting and towing eyes of the machine and diagonally across to the tie-down anchors of the trailer. Also, chain the bucket to the trailer using the same method. Finally, measure the distance from the ground to the highest point of the machine to ensure compliance with height regulations along the transport route. Now that you have a good understanding of how the backhoe functions, let's take a look at some of the techniques for efficient operation. When using the backhoe, follow these important steps. Clear the area before digging and check for potential hazards. If you are using a spotter, they should face the backhoe apparatus, keeping out of the range of the swing radius. Never allow them to stand within the swing radius or next to the stabilizers. Set the machine in the working position. Disengage the backhoe apparatus locking system and remove the swing lock pin. Check that the direction of travel lever is in neutral. Engage the parking brake and lower the loader bucket so the front wheels are no longer touching the ground. Accelerate the engine's RPM and run it at the required speed. Lower the stabilizers slightly, leaving the rear wheels in contact with the ground. Raising the rear wheels too far off the ground may destabilize the machine. There's a right way and a couple of wrong ways to dig. The wrong ways increase cycle time, can damage the machine, and most importantly, can cause a hazardous condition. Optimum digging results from short, uninterrupted work cycles. Use your control levers together at the same time to achieve this. Fill the bucket by maneuvering the dipper. Keep the bottom of the bucket parallel to the cut. The bucket teeth and blade must cut the ground like the blade of a knife. Dump your spoils into a pile, rolling out the bucket as the pile is approached. The spoil pile should be a minimum of 2 feet from the trench at all times. Never dig over an existing trench, as this may result in a cave-in. Work away from the trench you are digging. To move the machine forward, Make sure the front wheels are straight. Move the boom to place the backhoe teeth on stable ground. Slightly raise the loader bucket. Extend the boom to push the machine forward. After moving, lower the stabilizers and place the loader bucket on the ground, then set the parking brake. To maintain a level trench bottom, set the bucket at the correct angle of approach. Pull on the stick lever to maintain the correct cutting angle as the bucket is crowding in by applying light pressure to the right. At the same time, pull on the boom lever to relieve down pressure and keep the bucket in the same plane. Continue by moving forward. Again, always deposit spoils at least 2 feet from the trench. When digging on a slope, deposit the spoils from the trench on the uphill side. Never extend the backhoe apparatus to the downhill side, as this will make the machine unstable. To finish walls on a straight-walled excavation, crowd out the bucket while forcing the bucket down the excavation from the boom. To finish the rear wall, crowd in the bucket while lifting it with the boom, keeping the edges of the bucket horizontal. To backfill, lift the bucket over the spoil pile. Crowd in the stick and lift the boom. Pull both the crowd and boom levers simultaneously for smooth and even backfilling. Do not backfill by using the boom swing function, as this may cause damage to the machine. Backfilling can also be achieved by using the loader. Backdrag the trench after you finish backfilling. Leveling out rough terrain is made much simpler by using a box blade. Box blades are great for moving dirt from one place to another and filling holes, but gravel and other materials can also be redistributed with a box blade. When attaching the box blade to the tractor, you must use a 3-point hitch. When attaching implements to a 3-point hitch, be sure the drawbar will not interfere. First, carefully back up the tractor to the box blade, visually aligning the draft links with the hitch points of the box blade. A spotter can guide the draft link hitch points into line with the box blade hitch points. Once they are in line, insert the link pins through both links and secure them with locking pins. Once you have secured both of the draft links to the box blade, adjust the top link so that it can reach both the tractor and box blade center links. Insert a link pin through the tractor's center link and the top link, and then secure it with a locking pin. Next, insert another link pin through the other end of the top link and the box blade's center hitch point, securing it with a locking pin. With the implement attached, the 3-point hitch can now be adjusted to level the box blade. Use the rock shaft control lever to raise the box blade off the ground. Adjust the right-hand lift link until the box measures an equal distance from the ground on both sides. To adjust the hitch side sway, use the sway chain turnbuckles attached to the lower link arms to take up the chain slack as needed. The top link can also be adjusted to increase or decrease the rear tilt of the box blade. When the box blade has been secured and leveled, test the operation of the lift arms with the rock shaft position control lever. When working with the box blade, raise and lower the attachment as needed using the rock shaft control lever and modify the down force using the rock shaft draft control knob. To level material with a box blade, lower the box close to ground level and drive the tractor forward. The box blade will spread the material within the confines of the box and smooth the material as it moves forward. If you strike an object when working with the box blade, park the tractor with the attachment lowered, clear the object from your path, and move it outside of the work area. When your work is done, unhooking the box blade is a snap. Back up the tractor to the location where you will be storing the box blade. Park the tractor and lower the attachment to the ground. First, disconnect the top link from the tractor. Then, disconnect the top link from the box blade. Next, remove the pins from the lower hitch points and disconnect them as well. The box blade's work is now done for the day. Disc blades are an agricultural product that provides a more efficient result when breaking up hard ground. Disc blades are mounted in groups or gangs that rotate as they move forward through the soil. The disc blade is connected to the tractor using the drawbar. To connect, slowly back the tractor up towards the hitch of the disc blade, carefully aligning the holes in the drawbar and hitch. Using a spotter can help you align the hitches. Connect the disc blade hitch to the drawbar using the appropriate size bolt, washers, and nut. The bolt should be inserted from the top and fastened on the bottom. Use 2 crescent wrenches to tighten the nut and bolt, securing the hitch to the drawbar. Next, connect the hydraulic hoses to the tractor's hydraulic couplers. The hydraulics are used to raise the blades for traveling and lower the blades for operation. Now, the hand jack must be rotated to a horizontal position before operating the tractor and disc blade. With the disc properly connected, raise the blades off the ground and drive to your work location. When operating the disc blade, drive the tractor along the path you want to aerate and lower the blades using your hydraulic levers. Drive with the disc blades on the ground until you have finished aerating the path. Raise them with the hydraulics when you are done. You can do multiple passes using this method. Continue until the path is tilled to your satisfaction. Welcome to the ODOT Heavy Equipment Operator Training Series. This video covers the basic operations and blade control for a John Deere 550K series crawler dozer. It is by no means a replacement for your manual. It is strictly a visual aid in addition to the manual. If your machine differs from the John Deere 550K, refer to the operator's manual of your machine. Start off by opening the battery housing on the rear right side of the dozer and turning the battery disconnect switch clockwise to the on position. When entering or exiting the cab, use the 3 points of contact rule. 1 hand and 2 feet, or 2 hands and 1 foot need to be in contact with the machine at all times. This rule is extremely important when working with a dozer. Unlike other heavy machinery, the dozer requires you to walk along its tracks, which are high and slippery from mud, lubricants, and general buildup from construction sites. Always have your hands firmly gripped on the handholds before stepping on the dozer track. Once you're seated in the cab, fasten your seatbelt before doing anything else. Make sure the park lock levers are in the up and locked position and place the transmission control lever, or TCL, in neutral. As a safety precaution, the dozer will not start unless these 2 controls are in their proper positions. Press and release the horn switch to alert others around you and set the engine speed to half power. If the dozer has been properly parked, you will need to lift the blade by pulling back on the blade control lever. If your machine is equipped with a ripper, you will need to do the same with the ripper control lever. To control the dozer's position and direction, you will use the TCL. When you are ready to accelerate, Decompress the brake pedal and push the TCL forward for forward movement and reverse for backing up. The TCL also controls the dozer's steering. Push left for left turns and right for right turns. Moving the TCL fully right or left will cause the machine to counter-rotate for sharper turns. To increase the engine speed, rotate the engine speed control dial clockwise to the fast idle position towards the rabbit icon. To decrease engine speed, rotate the dial counterclockwise to slow idle position towards the turtle icon. To lower your blade, push the blade control lever forward until you reach your desired depth. Move the blade control lever left to tilt the blade left. Move the lever right to tilt the blade right. Twist the blade control lever counterclockwise to move the right edge of the blade forward. Twist the lever clockwise to move the left edge of the blade forward. Not all crawler dozers come equipped with a ripper attachment, but if your model does, then simply push the ripper control lever, located to the right of the blade control lever, forward to lower the ripper to your desired depth. When you have completed ripping, simply pull the ripper control lever rearward to raise it back up. Before you begin any digging or ripping, be sure the utility services in the area have been notified and that the job site is marked for possible underground lines or structures. This is extremely important. Dozing or ripping through a gas pipeline or an electrical line could be fatal. When working on a hill or rough terrain, reduce your speed to maintain control of your dozer. Cross over hills and obstructions at an angle. Ease up to the breakover point. Balance slowly on the obstruction and ease down to minimize the impact. When you're working in close areas, reduce your speed to avoid possible collisions with other equipment and workers. Even though the backup alarm is sounding, many workers on a loud and busy worksite may not be paying complete attention. Always be aware of your surroundings and stay visible to others. If you're required to haul the unit, always use caution when loading it on or off a trailer. Experience shows that this is one of the most likely times for a tipping accident. You must follow a series of precautionary steps every time you load, transport, and unload the dozer and trailer. First, be sure the trailer is parked on a firm, flat surface. Use chalk blocks against the trailer's wheels to prevent the trailer from moving. Always fasten your seatbelt before loading or unloading the dozer in case it overturns. Use a spotter to help you line up the dozer. To keep yourself straight and on target, have the spotter stand on the center line to guide you. The center line of the dozer should align with the center line of the trailer. The dozer also needs to be balanced in the middle of the trailer with equal distances between the front and the rear of the trailer. When the dozer is in position, move the park lock lever into the locked position. Lower the dozer blade and attachments for added stabilization. Shut the engine off and release the dozer's hydraulic pressure. Fasten each corner of the machine to the trailer with a chain and ratchet load binder. ODOT no longer uses crossover X tightening. Do not place chains or cables over or against hydraulic lines or hoses. Finally, place an exhaust sock over the exhaust pipe and turn the battery disconnect switch to the off position. Unchalk the trailer wheels and be sure to clear off any debris that has broken off from loading the dozer onto the trailer. Loose construction materials could fall off during transport, causing serious damage or injuries to others on the road. Welcome to ODOT's Heavy Equipment Operator Training, where you will learn how to use the machines that build and maintain our highways. This video series is by no means a replacement for your manual. It is simply a visual aid in addition to the manual. The tough and reliable dozer is a vital tool for shaping and creating highways. Dozers are used to rip, grade, pull, and plow the landscape and are tough, reliable machines. This is why they have come to be commonly known as bulldozers. In the last decade, the dozer has evolved from the revolutionary Benjamin Holt track-laying tractor to one of the most recognizable and beloved pieces of heavy equipment in the world. This video covers the use of the John Deere 550K series crawler dozer. If you operate a different dozer, then you'll need to refer to its manufacturer's manual to learn about its safety and maintenance needs. At the beginning of your shift, you will need to complete a series of inspections and do an operational walk-around to ensure that your machine is in good working condition and meets safety standards. First, make sure you have all your personal equipment packed and with you before operating the dozer. This includes ODOT-issued ANSI Class 3 gear that is appropriate for the day's duties. It is important to wear tight-fitting clothes and safety equipment to avoid any entanglements within the dozer's cabin or its multiple moving parts. Prior to starting your day's work, make sure the machine is on level ground and perform the following action. First, visually check that the machine has the proper track sag. An improperly adjusted track wears at a more rapid rate. If the track is too tight, it will increase wear on the pins, bushings, links, sprocket, and front idler. To check the dozer's sag, position the track so that a track pin is centered over the carrier roller. With a straight edge, measure the distance from the track grouser to the bottom of the straight edge. Proper sag distance is 2.5 inches. If the track is too tight, then simply remove the access plug and loosen the fitting 1 to 2 turns counterclockwise to release the grease through the vent hole. If you need to tighten the track, then add grease to the zerk using a grease gun. Now, measure the sag again until it's correct and reinstall the access plug. The track also needs to be free from any mud, oil, or other lubricants that can cause accidental slippage while entering and exiting the cab. According to National Safety Inc., getting on and off equipment and vehicles accounts for 1 out of every 4 injuries to those operating equipment or driving trucks, and some of these injuries can be quite severe. After you have inspected the tracks, move over to the front right service door to check the front engine components. Start off by visually inspecting the belt for wear, cracks, or fraying. If the belt shows signs of excessive wear, let your mechanic know because it needs to be replaced immediately. Just left of the belt is the engine oil dipstick. Remove the dipstick and wipe off the oil with a clean rag. Reinsert the dipstick and pull it out again. The oil level should be between the minimum and maximum marks on the dipstick. If the oil level is low, then you must fill it up before continuing operation. Before securing the front right service door, check the wiring for tears or fraying. On top of the dozer's hood is the surge tank for the engine coolant. Make sure that when you climb onto the dozer track to check it, that you use 3 points of contact. That's 1 hand and 2 feet, or 1 foot and 2 hands at an access point or handhold. When checking the tank, always make sure the engine is shut off and cooled before unscrewing the tank cap. Removing the tank cap while the engine is hot can lead to spraying and possible injury. Always wear gloves and eye protection when inspecting your dozer. The coolant must be between the min and max level markings. Also located on top is the engine's air filter. Open the engine air cleaner access cover and unlatch the air filter manifold to remove the filter. Check the filter for wear and dirt. If the air filter is clogged or damaged, replace it with a new air filter. If it is in good operational condition, reinsert it back into the manifold and replace the latches. Continue your daily inspection by moving to the right side rear service door, which houses the dozer's filter systems. Make sure that all of the filters are tightly secured and in operating order. These filters are required to be routinely changed every 500 hours as part of preventative maintenance for the machine. Move on to check the hydraulic oil level by inspecting the sight glass. Make sure the oil is between the add and full level of the machine. If hydraulic oil needs to be added, then additional safety procedures are necessary. First off, always wear protective gloves and eye gear. If hydraulic oil penetrates your skin, see a doctor immediately. Injected oil has to be surgically removed to avoid serious or fatal injury. Remove the hydraulic oil cap and insert a funnel. Due to the machine's height, you will need to use a ladder to safely fill to the appropriate level. Use a colleague for assistance while lifting the oil on and off the ladder and to prevent accidents from occurring. This panel also houses the windshield wiper fluid tank. If you notice that the fluid is low, simply unscrew the fluid cap, insert funnel, and fill to proper level. On a weekly basis, you will need to drain the excess water from the engine's primary fuel filter. Start by attaching the drain hose to the drain valve and place an oil pan underneath the opposite end of the hose. Loosen the drain valve and drain the liquid for several seconds or until all the water and sediments are removed. When it is empty, close the valve and dispose of the waste properly. Lastly, inspect the condition of the various hoses. If they are cracked or leaking, replace them before operation. As you make your way to the other side of the machine, stop and inspect the condition of each ripper pin if your dozer is equipped with a ripper. Continue to the left side rear service door where the transmission oil sight glass is located. Make sure that it meets the proper min and max levels as well. This is also where the dozer's battery is located. Visually inspect the battery's terminal for corrosion and check to make sure that the connections are tight. Never handle the battery without proper gloves and eye protection. Sulfuric acid in battery electrolyte is poisonous. It is strong enough to burn your skin, eat through clothing, and cause blindness if splashed into your eyes. The last service door is located at the front left side of the dozer and holds the machine's exhaust. Make sure the hoses are in operational condition and that the exhaust is clean and free of debris. Make your way to the front of the dozer and check that the blade edge is attached tightly and in good operating condition. Also, make sure that the cables and hoses behind the blade are not torn or frayed, and that the engine fan guard is clean and clear of debris. With the main engine components checked and operational, make sure your dozer is properly lubricated. Using a grease gun, make your way around the machine and add grease to the various grease zerks. Wipe the zerks with a clean cloth before applying lubrication to eliminate dirt from entering the system. With the lower exterior checked, make your way onto the dozer's track and clean the windows with window cleaner for maximum visibility. While you're there, be sure to check that your wipers are not worn and in good working condition. Before entering the cab, remove all trash and loose items that could become safety hazards during operation. Check that all lights are in working order, as well as the windshield wipers. When starting the dozer's engine, check the system gauge indicators located on the display monitor and make sure that no warning indicators are illuminated and that all of the oils and fuel gauges are at their proper levels. Make sure that the horn and backup alarm are working. Finally, make sure that all your safety equipment is present. This includes a fully stocked and charged fire extinguisher that's not expired, and a seatbelt that is free of tears and properly locks. All walkarounds are essential for the machine and the operators. The Oklahoma Department of Transportation wants all of its operators safe at the end of the day. Following these steps will limit accidents and mechanical failures. Statistics show that out of all the accidents reported, over 90% of the operators hurt or killed were listed as experienced, don't become a statistic. In previous videos, ODOT showed you 4 different ways to prop a dump bed. However, current ODOT safety standards narrow it down to 1. With the parking brake on and the engine wheels blocked, start the engine. Switch the master control switch to on and engage the PTO to raise the dump bed until the body props are clear of the V-brackets. Carefully raise the props. If you notice that the props are rusted, bent, or that there is no resistance when swinging the props up, for example when the bolt is loose, do not continue. Instead, let your supervisor know immediately. If the props are not bent or rusted and you can feel some resistance when you raise them up, continue and lower the dump body onto the body props. Next, position a non-damaged 6x6 timber block towards the back end of the raised bed between the frame and the truck bed. Chain and secure the timber block to the truck's body frame using at least a 3/8 length chain with clevis hooks. Wrap the chain around the cross member and the frame on the driver's side of the truck and attach the hook to the chain. Then, bring the chain over to the passenger side and wrap it around the cross member and frame again. Use the other hook of the chain and attach it to the nearest chain link. Finally, disengage the PTO and shut the engine down. When you're ready to lower the dump bed and put the truck back in service, check the surrounding area and make sure that all employees are far enough away from the truck to avoid injury. Next, start the engine and engage the PTO. Remove the chain and the 6x6 from underneath the dump bed. Signal the driver to slightly raise the dump bed in order to store the body props. With the body props in the downward position, lower the dump bed until it rests on the truck's frame. If the truck bed needs to be extended upward past the body props, for example for any type of repair or adjustment, do not proceed and try to prop the dump bed yourself. Instead, you must take the truck to the division maintenance shop. Finally, a quick reminder: never work under a raised dump bed unless it is secured in the raised position with the body props up and the 6x6 timber block in place. And make sure the dump bed is empty before you raise it. Besides the body props, the tailgate is another important part of the dump bed. The tailgate keeps the load secure, and it determines how you will dump the load because it can be released from the top or the bottom. The tailgate can also be completely removed, for example when you need to load the salt spreader. First, make sure the tailgate is secure at the top and the bottom. Check that the tailgate latch is keeping the tailgate securely in place. To release the bottom of the tailgate, pull the tailgate latch lever at the front of the dump bed. Or, if your truck is equipped with a release knob in the cab, pull the tailgate latch release knob. This will allow the tailgate to open when the dump bed is raised. You can change the width of the tailgate opening by adjusting the length of the chain that goes from the tailgate to the dump bed. Count how many links you're using on one side and make sure you have the same number of links on the other side of the tailgate. First, if you need to adjust the length, first make sure that both chains are hooked into place. Then, simply unhook the first chain from the dump bed and determine the new length of the chain. Insert the chain in the side opening of the dump bed and repeat the procedure on the other side. Now that you're familiar with the dump bed and the tailgate, it's time to load some material. To load the bed correctly, first lower the bed and make sure it's empty and clean, and that the material gets evenly distributed into the dump bed. When you drive off-site, make sure you cover your load so it stays secure and debris doesn't disturb other drivers. Remember, covering the load is the law, and failure to do so will result in a fine that will come out of your pocket. When you arrive at your destination, don't forget to uncover your load before raising the dump bed. When you're finished for the day, collect and properly dispose and/or recycle any waste that is collected in the dump bed. You're transporting a lot of weight in your dump bed, which can cause your truck to easily tip over. There are several causes for this. It's easy for material to stick together, for example, hot asphalt, or if material is frozen. It's also important to make sure that your load is properly spread out in the bed, and not just to one side. Uneven loading will affect your driving as well. It can cause too much deflection on the rear shocks, and the uneven load may also cause underinflated tires. Finally, remember that excessive swaying of the chassis can cause the truck to tip over. The cause for the swaying can be high winds, traveling with a raised or overloaded dump bed, or leaving the tailgate open. Remember, you're traveling with a heavy load, and driving and dumping shifts the weight of that load around. Also remember that coming to a stop with a loaded truck will take longer than with an empty one. Always keep a safe distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. If need be, there are two different ways to start up a stalled engine, either by using jump start cables or through an auxiliary power source. Always wear eye protection and other personal protective equipment when jump starting a machine. This machine has a 24-volt starting system. The wrong jump start cable connection or a difference in voltage between the batteries could cause them to explode, so only use equal voltage for jump starting. On the stalled machine, place the transmission control switch in the neutral position. Engage the parking brake on the stalled machine and lower the equipment to the ground. Turn the engine start switch on the stalled machine to the off position. Turn the master switch on the stalled machine to the on position. Move the machine that is being used as an electrical source near the stalled machine so that the jump start cables will reach, but do not allow the machines to contact each other. Stop the engine of the machine that is being used as an electrical source. Ensure the battery caps on both machines are tight and correctly placed. Frozen batteries tend to swell. Charging a frozen battery may cause it to explode. Ensure that the batteries in the stalled machine are not frozen. If you have frozen batteries, safely remove them from the machine and store them indoors until they defrost or replace them. After the batteries have warmed up, then try jump starting them. The positive ends of the jump start cable are red. Connect one positive end of the jump start cable to the positive cable terminal of the discharged battery. Keep in mind that some machines have multiple batteries. Most motor graders are powered by two 12-volt batteries that are joined together in a series, creating a 24-volt system. Batteries that are joined together in a series have a jumper wire that connects the negative terminal of the lead battery to the positive terminal of the additional battery. The remaining positive and negative terminals are wired to the machine. Some machines can also be powered through 12-volt battery systems that consist of two 12-volt batteries that are joined together in parallel. Batteries that are joined in parallel have a jumper wire that connects the two positive terminals of both batteries together, as well as a jumper wire that connects the two negative terminals. Additionally, a second set of jumper wires are connected to the negative and positive terminals of the second battery, which lead to the machine. Use the terminal that is connected to the starter solenoid. This battery or battery set is normally on the same side of the machine as the starting motor. Do not allow the positive cable clamps to contact any metal except the battery terminals. Connect the other positive end of the jumper start cable to the positive cable terminal of the charging battery. Likewise, connect one negative end of the jump start cable to the negative cable terminal of the charged battery. In 24-volt battery systems, the negative cable terminal of the charged battery is connected to the master switch. Connect the other negative end of the jump start cable to the frame of the stalled machine. Do not connect the jump start cable to the battery post, and do not allow those cables to contact the battery cables, the fuel lines, the hydraulic lines, or any other moving parts. Start the engine of the machine that is being used as an electrical source. Wait at least 2 minutes before you attempt to start the stalled machine, as this will allow its batteries to partially charge. If successful, immediately disconnect the jump start cables in reverse order, starting with the negative cable on the stalled machine, the negative cable on the charging battery, the positive cable on the charging battery, and the positive cable on the stalled machine. Some machines also have an auxiliary jump post that requires a special cable to use it. Severely discharged batteries will not fully recharge from the alternator alone after a jump start. The batteries must be charged to their proper voltage with a battery charger. The motor grader is one of ODOT's most versatile pieces of heavy equipment, used for everything from blade patching and snow plowing to crowning and leveling. This video covers the basic operations for the Caterpillar 120 M2. If your motor grader is different, then refer to your grader's manual. When entering the cab, always use 3 points of contact. That's 1 hand and 2 feet, or 1 foot and 2 hands at an access point or handhold. Once inside, make sure that you put on your seatbelt before any operation actions are performed. To start, turn the key to the halfway mark and check the gauges on the dashboard. Once the system checks itself, the gauges will return to the starting position. Now turn the key to the full position to start the machine. The M-Series intuitive joystick control pattern allows both new and experienced operators to become productive quickly. The left joystick primarily controls the machine. Leaning left or right steers the machine. Twisting articulates the machine with an automatic return to center feature controlled by the far right yellow button. Upper left and right thumb buttons govern front wheel lean. And the index finger trigger shifts the transmission into forward, neutral, or reverse. Additional buttons provide up and down shift control. The only function on the left joystick dedicated to the blade control is the pull-push motion, which activates the left moldboard lift cylinder. The right joystick is dedicated to drawbar, circle, and moldboard control. Pull-push activates the right moldboard lift cylinder, intuitively mirroring the pull-push function on the left joystick, as well as providing the same float capability for the right lift cylinder. Leaning the joystick left or right side shifts the moldboard. Twisting rotates the circle. For example, to rotate the blade in a counterclockwise direction, simply twist the right-hand joystick counterclockwise. When you release the joystick, it will return to the hold position, and the blade circle will remain in the selected position. A 4-way hat switch controls 2 functions. Rolling the switch forward and back tips the moldboard forward and rearward. Rolling it left and right shifts the drawbar to the left and right. Before maneuvering the motor grader, position the machine's blade for travel by keeping it within the width of the motor grader. As shown here, use caution when positioning the heel of the blade in front of the left tandem tire and the toe of the blade behind the right front tire, as damage could occur if the blade were to touch the tires while turning. When working in tight or limited spaces, use the front wheel lean function to allow the machine to make tighter turns with a smaller radius. Likewise, combining the wheel lean function with articulation will allow the machine to make even tighter, sharper turns with a small radius. Again, keep an eye out for the travel position of the blade and make sure that it doesn't come into contact with the tandem's tires. Depending on where your work site is located, you may have to ship the machine or simply drive it to your destination, also known as roading. If you do have to trailer the machine, start off by chocking the trailer wheels. When the machine is positioned, lower all attachments to the trailer bed for added stability. Move the transmission control switch to neutral. Engage the parking brake and stop the engine. Turn the battery disconnect switch to the off position and remove the disconnect switch key. Fasten each corner of the machine to the trailer with a chain and ratchet load binder. ODOT no longer uses crossover X tightening. Do not place chains or cables over or against hydraulic lines or hoses to avoid machine damage. Connect the frame lock link and the wheel lean locking bolt. These will hold the front and rear frame rigid and hold the front wheels in their upright position. Lastly, and before any grading is performed, be sure the utility services in the area have been notified and that the job site is marked for possible underground lines or structures. This is extremely important. Grading through a gas or electrical pipeline could be fatal. Start the tractor and warm up the engine from the operator's seat. Release the parking brake and position the tractor where you plan to begin mowing. Set the parking brake, put the shift lever into neutral, and reduce the engine RPM. Lower the side wings into cutting position and engage the PTO at idle speed. Release the parking brake, accelerate, and start mowing at an appropriate speed for the conditions. Mow with traffic and in a direction that allows the cut material to be thrown towards the uncut area. When you have finished mowing the first pass, stop the tractor and set the parking brake. Disengage the PTO and release the parking brake. When the road is clear of traffic, turn across the roadway and position the mower for the next pass. To resume mowing, engage the PTO. Mow a swath the same distance as the first pass. Repeat this process until the right-of-way is mowed on both sides, then move on to the next uncut section of grass. When operating a tractor on a slope, use the tilt meter to determine the grade. Do not exceed a 3-to-1 grade. Do not drive the tractor up hills. Backward tip-overs can happen in a split second. Engage the clutch slowly when driving out of a ditch or up a steep slope. Be prepared to disengage the clutch immediately if the front wheels rise up off the ground. When driving on a slope, turn the tractor downhill if it starts to tilt. If you need to go up a steep slope, drive up the slope in reverse. When going downhill, you should not be pulling a heavy load. Keep the tractor in low gear when going downhill. Rollers have been used in road maintenance and construction since the early 20th century. These early versions were known as steam rollers. Technological advancement has brought us the diesel-powered rollers we use today. ODOT crews across the state use rollers to compact asphalt, gravel, and soil. There are two primary types of rollers: the steel wheel roller and the pneumatic roller. Both of these rollers play a unique role in the maintenance of our state highways. This program covers the Caterpillar PS150C pneumatic roller. The roller you will be using may have slight differences than this version. As always, refer to your operator's manual for instructions on the machine you will be using. Before we focus on this piece of equipment, let's focus on you. Since 1937, ODOT has lost over 50 employees killed in the line of duty. That's why the department cannot stress enough how important it is to stay safe and alert. Safety starts with you. A good way to practice safe work procedures is by using the required PPE or personal protective equipment. This consists of, but is not limited to, an ODOT-approved, ANSI-certified Class 3 safety vest with sleeves, a highly reflective hat that is bright and clean, and a pair of sturdy gloves. Keep in mind that the gloves reduce the sensitivity of your hands, which may affect your ability to operate some controls. You may also need to wear eye and hearing protection if the job calls for them. Any ODOT employee who is required to drive as part of their duties must possess a valid Oklahoma driver's license. Also, as a transportation equipment operator, you must possess a Class A CDL. Having a driver's license also comes with the responsibility of knowing when you shouldn't drive or operate heavy equipment. Be sure to notify your supervisor if things such as fatigue, a medical condition, or medication might prevent you from safely performing your job. For your personal safety, Oklahoma legislation prohibits a state employee from texting while driving a state vehicle or operating heavy equipment. The use of tobacco or e-cigarettes on state property is prohibited. This includes the roller. The pneumatic roller consists of a set of front and back rubber tires used to compact shallow lift fill, aggregate, and asphalt material. Standard equipment found on a roller includes a pressurized spray system for maximum spray control, certified rollover protection structure, or ROPS, a seat belt, backup alarm, horn, vandal cover, cocoa mats, gauges, and meters. A roller is commonly ballasted with water, sand, or steel. Ballast increases the weight of the machine, allowing for greater compaction and added density to the surface. The spray system moistens the roller's tires, keeping hot asphalt material from sticking. In addition to the sprayers, cocoa mats distribute a film of water to the entire surface of the pneumatic tires as they turn. This both cools the tires and prevents tacky material from sticking to the roller's wheels. A swivel seat allows you to operate from the left side, center, or the right side of the machine. Hydrostatic drive allows for infinitely variable travel speeds. Other features include a parking brake and hydraulic-powered steering. Rollers are a key piece of heavy equipment used in highway maintenance. That's why it's important to understand the capabilities and proper operation techniques of the machine. As a heavy equipment operator, your top priority is operating the machine in a safe and effective manner. Remember to always obey all the safety decals that are on the machine. Before operating the roller, be sure you are aware of all risk factors in your job perimeter. Inspect the work area for obstructions and debris. Operators must ride in the operator's seat, keeping their hands on the controls at all times. Always wear your seat belt while operating the equipment. This allows for the ROPS, or rollover protection system, to protect you in the case of a rollover incident. Remember, the ROPS is useless if you are not wearing your seat belt. The roller is a single occupant machine, and at no time should passengers be allowed to ride on the equipment. When entering and exiting the roller, always use 3 points of contact. This consists of 2 feet and 1 hand, or 1 foot and 2 hands in contact with a handhold or access point at all times. Do not operate the roller if the machine's weight, including the ballast, exceeds the approved weight limits of the machine. This will cause damage to the roller and increase the possibility of an accident. Please refer to the owner's manual for the correct vehicle weight for operation. Before performing any maintenance on the roller, bring it to a full stop on level ground. Never provide service or maintenance to the machine unless the wheels are properly chocked and the parking brake is applied. Remember, it is prohibited to make any modifications to the machine that may affect safety without the manufacturer's approval. This applies to any installation or adjustment of safety devices. Your safety and the safety of others are dependent on the correct operation of the roller. An out-of-control machine can result in injury or death. Prior to transporting the pneumatic roller, you must know the height and weight of your machine and make sure the truck and trailer are properly sized. When transporting, first block the front and rear of the trailer's wheels and make sure the loading ramp can handle the weight of the machine. Make sure the trailer is cleared of ice, snow, or grease. Ensure that the roller's parking brake is in working order prior to loading it onto the trailer. Slowly drive the machine onto the center of the trailer for maximum stability. Lock the articulation joint if it is appropriate. Apply the parking brake and stop the engine. Close and lock all the machine doors and access panels. Block the front and rear tires of the machine on the trailer. Use 4 chains to fasten the machine to the trailer. Attach the chains to the lifting and towing eyes of the machine and diagonally across to the tie-down anchors of the trailer. Measure the distance from the ground to the highest point of the machine when on the trailer to ensure compliance with height regulations along the transport route. Make sure you know your clearance. As with all ODOT heavy equipment, a daily walk-around is essential before operation. It is important to conduct the pre-inspection before starting the roller's engine. First, check for any fluid leaks under and around the roller. Make sure that there are no broken, missing, or loose parts. Inspect the tires for damage and proper inflation. Clean all dirt and debris as well as any trash that may be present on the roller operator's platform. Store or remove all tools and loose items. Ensure that the roller's steps are clear of asphalt or any other obstructions. Lower the tire scrapers and check that the cocoa mats and water spray nozzles are clear of debris. Rollers are equipped with scrapers to help prevent tacky substances from building up on the surface of the tires. These are mounted on shafts with torsional springs. The scraper is adjusted correctly when it can be lifted from the tire with 1 finger. Never allow the scraper to wear to the point that it cuts grooves in the tires on the pneumatic rollers. Next, lift and secure the engine cover. Inspect the engine compartment for leaks and ensure that the drive belts and hoses are in good condition. Do not operate the roller if the drive belts are damaged or broken. Check the engine coolant level. If the coolant level is low, fill with the recommended ethylene glycol-based antifreeze. Never remove the radiator fill cap when the coolant is hot. Also, be sure to remove any debris on or around the radiator. Check the engine oil level. Remove the dipstick, wipe it clean, and reinsert it to get an accurate reading. Be sure the level falls between the proper marks. Add oil if necessary by following the instructions in the owner's manual. Close and secure the engine cover. Then, using 3 points of contact, climb onto the operator's platform. Inspect the ROPS to ensure it is free of damage. Always check the seat belt for any tears or abrasions and be sure to fasten it before operating the roller. Remember, the ROPS will not be effective without the seat belt. Start the roller and observe the gauges. If any gauge reads out of its normal operating range, shut off the machine and do not use the roller until the problem is fixed. Remember to never leave the machine unattended while it's running. You are now ready to get rolling. Back the tractor into position using the help of a spotter to guide the tractor's drawbar in line with the hitch of the mower. Before attaching an implement to the drawbar, read the operator's manual carefully. Your spotter should prepare the mower's hitch for connection. When the hitch points are aligned, connect them with the appropriate size bolt, washers, and nut. Use crescent wrenches to fully tighten the nut and bolt. Adjust the drawbar height to approximately 16 inches between ground level and the drawbar hitch point. When attaching an implement to the drawbar, use the hitch in its extended position. For a PTO speed of 540 RPM, the hitch point must be 14 inches from the end of the PTO shaft. For a PTO speed of 1000 RPM, the hitch point must be 16 inches from the end of the PTO shaft. Next, lower the mower's weight onto the drawbar using the trailer hand jack. Connect the PTO with the help of your spotter. Lift the mower's power shaft and align it with the tractor's PTO. Move the collar back against the stop of the yoke. Turn the collar to align the yoke with the splines on the tractor PTO shaft. As your spotter holds it in place, slide the end of the mower's power shaft onto the tractor's PTO. Fasten the safety chain linking the shaft cover to the tractor. Connect the mower's hydraulic hoses to the tractor's couplers. Use a rubber tie-down to secure the hydraulic hoses out of the way where they cannot touch the PTO shaft. Inspect the rubber tie-down beforehand, checking for cracks that could cause it to break. As a safety precaution, run a heavy safety chain, linking the tractor to the trailer of the mower. Fasten the chain through the links using an appropriate bolt and nut. With this in place, if a failure occurs at the hitch points, the chain will prevent the mower from becoming disconnected from the tractor. When disconnecting the PTO mower from the tractor, simply reverse the process. Disconnect the chain first, then the hydraulic hoses, PTO safety chain, and mower PTO shaft. Finally, with the hand jack down, disconnect the hitch from the drawbar. To attach a power takeoff or PTO, be sure to have the correct RPM PTO shaft for the implement being attached. The 540 RPM shaft we will be using has 6 splines. Set the parking brake, disengage power to the PTO shaft, shut off the engine, and remove the shaft guard. The guard must be in place when an attachment is not connected to the PTO. Check the tractor PTO coupling and implement the PTO stub to make sure they have the same number of splines. Always engage the PTO at the lowest RPM. Engaging the PTO at a high RPM can cause breakage of the shaft or spline. When operating a PTO, engage the PTO only when the engine is running. While running the engine, push the clutch down all the way and wait for the tractor to stop if you are moving. Next, move the PTO lever to the on position. Then release the pedal slowly. To stop the tractor while the PTO is running, push down on both brake pedals and the clutch pedal at the same time. Next, change gears and release the brake pedals. Then release the clutch pedal slowly. To disengage the PTO, push down the clutch pedal all the way and move the PTO lever to off. Oklahoma is known for its hot summers, but we have our occasional snowstorm as well. And that's when ODOT trucks are equipped with an important attachment, the snowplow. First, let's look at how to attach it. With the help of a spotter, pull your truck up to the plow. Drive slowly and align the truck with the center of the plow frame. If the plow is stored on blocks, chances are the frame lines up pretty closely with the attachment hitch of the truck. Unlike the traditional snowplow, the newer directional plows don't have holes on the frame. Instead, they have a spring-loaded dog latch mechanism. As soon as the truck goes past the latch, the plow is connected to the hitch. To release the plow, simply pull the lever to raise the latch. Next, hook up the lift chain to the plow hoist. When you're finished, connect the hydraulic lines to the truck. On older models, you only have one line to raise or lower the plow. On newer model hitches, there are two hydraulic lines, one to raise and lower the plow, the other to adjust the angle of the plow. Turning the plow with the new directional plows is as easy as lifting a finger. Simply push a button and the plow will change its angle. As a driver, how do you determine the angle of the snowplow? The angle should always be as shallow as the conditions allow. The greater the angle, the smaller the snowplow lane. Light and dry snow requires a shallow angle, but wet and heavy snow requires a short angle. And make sure that the angle is not so sharp that it fails to clear the path of your truck tires. When it's time to hit the road, here are a few safety tips to remember. Always respect and never exceed the appropriate speeds for the equipment you're using under the conditions that you're in. Make sure that you're using all the available safety devices, such as the stay back sign, flashing and hazard lights, and be aware of obstructions both on and off the road. Always plow in the direction of traffic and be wary of drivers behind you because it's not unusual to be rear-ended. If the truck skids, steer into the skid until you can regain control. Then steer back into the driving lane and continue. Always have protective clothing on hand, especially gloves. Outer clothing that repels wind and moisture, a face helmet, head and ear coverings, 2 pairs of socks and boots are a necessity when you're on the road during severe winter weather conditions. Also, be familiar with the symptoms of cold exposure and frostbite, and have a container of hot, non-alcoholic liquid on hand. It's also important to carry emergency equipment with you, such as flares or reflectors, a first aid kit, a fire extinguisher, and a flashlight. Finally, double-check your two-way radio. It might be your only way to communicate during severe weather. When it's time to make the blade touch the road, carefully lower the blade until it touches the pavement, then raise it slightly to a maximum of 1 inch above the ground. Next, turn on all the safety warning lights. Plow from the center line out to the shoulder while keeping an eye on oncoming traffic. Plow to the low side of the ramps or curves whenever you can. If you plow to the high side, eventually the snow will melt and run across the highway where it can ice over. Finally, try to plow away from the wind as not to endanger yourself or others. Spraying herbicide is a fast and cost-effective way to control the growth of grass and weeds along the highways. But operating a sprayer takes more than flipping a switch and driving a truck. You need to understand the proper way to mix chemicals, know pressure regulators, and so on. In fact, ODOT safety guidelines require that you take an herbicide class and get certified before you can spray herbicide on the state highways. To become certified in the proper operation and application of spraying, please ask your supervisor to enroll you in the herbicide class. Upon completion, you will be familiar with the proper procedures in calibration and operation of ODOT sprayer equipment. But even if you're not certified, you may be called upon to help with the installation of the tank. Here's how it's done. In order to install the sprayer tank in the dump bed, you must remove the tailgate first. Back the truck up to the tailgate hanger and attach the chains to the tailgate. Next, remove the tailgate chains from the dump bed and remove the hinge pins at the top of the tailgate. Unhook the tailgate latch. Pull forward slowly to reduce excessive swinging of the tailgate. Always make sure that the area around the tailgate is clear and that bystanders are far enough away to avoid getting hurt. To load the sprayer tank with the dump bed still slightly raised, drive under the hanging tank. Unfasten the chains that the tank is hanging from at the front. Then lower the dump bed and take the chains off the back. Now slowly drive forward. To keep the tank from sliding in the dump bed, first secure the back of the tank by strapping the tank down. Simply throw a strap over the tank and secure the hook on the passenger's side of the dump bed. Then, attach the other hook on the driver's side of the dump bed. Tighten the strap with the ratchet and store the remainder of the strap. Next, connect the power from the tank to the truck. To fill the tank, line up the truck under the water supply pipe. When the tire hits the mark on the beam, that means the hole on top of the tank lines up with the water line. Allow the tank to fill up with water approximately 80% before you add the chemicals. By the way, if you put the chemicals in first, the water pressure will create a toxic foam and spill out of the tank. While you're filling the truck with water, start the tank's engine. The engine has a perforated pipe attached to it that runs to the inside of the tank and keeps the water circulating. The circulation is necessary to keep the chemicals suspended. Once the tank is full, pull forward, close the lid, and you're on your way. In addition to the hanging tanks, ODOT also uses freestanding tanks as well. To install the tank with the tailgate removed, raise the dump bed slightly. That will lower the back end of the dump bed and allows you to scoop up the front of the tank. Continue to back up. The dump bed will lift the tank's front legs off the ground and folds them under the tank's frame. At the rear of the tank, the frame will line up with the tailgate latch. Lower the dump bed to its horizontal position. Lowering it will take the weight off the back legs of the tank's frame. Raise the back legs further off the ground and use the safety pin to keep them in place. Do the same on the other side. Next, connect the electric wire from the tank to the truck. Finally, secure the tank with a tie-down strap. Place one hook on the outside of the dump bed, throw it over the tank, and place the other hook on the other side of the dump bed. Use the ratchet to tighten the strap. Fold and store the remainder of the strap. You're now ready to fill up the tank and be on your way. Start the tractor with the gear shift or power reverser lever in neutral. Make sure the PTO lever is disengaged. Adjust the hand throttle to 1/3 of full throttle. The engine may not start with the throttle pulled completely down. Depress the clutch pedal and turn the key to the start position. Release the key when the engine starts. If the key is released before the engine starts, wait until the starter and the engine stop turning before trying again. Warm up the engine before operating the tractor. Check the gauges and lamps for proper oil pressure, battery charge, and coolant temperature. Avoid unnecessary engine idling. To drive forward, move the power reverser lever into the forward position. Next, place the tractor in gear and slowly release the clutch. Open the hand throttle to accelerate. To shift while operating, depress the clutch and move the gear shift lever, then slowly release the clutch. To turn the tractor, turn with the steering wheel while pressing on the individual brake pedals to assist the turn. Do not make sharp turns while towing an attachment. To safely bring the tractor to a halt, reduce the throttle and apply the brakes gradually. Move the power reverser lever into neutral. Depress the clutch and move the gear shift to neutral. Release the clutch and set the parking brake. To drive in reverse, first look behind to check for hazards. Move the power reverser lever into the reverse position. Depress the clutch, place the tractor in gear, release the clutch, and slowly back the tractor. Always look behind when you are backing. To increase or decrease the engine speed, use the hand throttle. The engine will maintain the set speed until the hand throttle is moved again. You will attain the maximum speed with the lever all the way up, and the minimum speed with the lever all the way down. To temporarily increase the engine speed, use the foot throttle. The engine speed will return to its previous speed as soon as the foot lever is released. Do not place the tractor under a full load until it is properly warmed up. Idle the engine at about 1500 RPM for several minutes. Run the engine at about 1900 RPM and under a light load until the engine reaches normal operating conditions. The tractor may be operated in any gear with engine speeds between 1600 and 2100 RPM. Within these limits, the engine can be put under a full load. If the engine stalls when operating under a load, depress the clutch and restart it immediately to prevent abnormal heat buildup. Continue operating or run the engine at a slow idle for 1 or 2 minutes before stopping. When using the tractor under heavy loads, always use full throttle, which is the maximum engine RPM. For example, when working with heavy tillage or an attachment that requires high power. A power reverser transmission makes changing the direction of travel very convenient for the operator. A change in travel direction cannot be made without depressing the clutch pedal. With the tractor stopped, select the desired travel direction, forward or reverse. To use the power reverser transmission, the clutch must be fully depressed one time after the engine is started. When the tractor is started with the speed gear engaged, the tractor will not move when the power reverser lever is set to forward or reverse until the clutch pedal has been fully depressed one time. 9 forward and 9 reverse speeds are available when using the range and the gear shift levers. Speed ranges are different than speed gears. The tractor must be completely stopped when shifting the speed range, but can be in motion when shifting the speed gears. The top shaft synchronizer works only on speed gears, allowing you to change gears on the go without stopping. The clutch pedal must be fully depressed in order to make a gear shift. If the clutch pedal is not fully depressed, the shift lever cannot be moved beyond neutral. The speed range cannot be shifted without stopping. Do not attempt to change the range while in motion. To shift into a different range, you must stop the tractor, depress the clutch pedal fully, decrease the engine speed, and shift ranges. Once the shift is completed, you can increase the engine speed. A left brake pedal and a right brake pedal control the brakes to the left and right wheels of the tractor. The pedals are located on the right side of the cab floor. These brakes can be operated independently or they can be locked together. Brakes operated independently assist in making short turns. Locked brakes are used for emergency stops and for parking the tractor. Brakes must be locked when traveling on roads and highways and should always be applied gradually. Before operating a tractor on a road, lock the brake pedals together with the locking bar. Use the brakes lightly and cautiously at transport speeds. For field work, the brake pedals should not be locked together. Instead, apply the right brake pedal lightly to assist in making right-hand turns and the left pedal for making left-hand turns. If the brakes are braking unevenly when locked together, the operator must have them adjusted by a mechanic as soon as possible. Always set the parking brake when exiting the tractor. Leaving the transmission in gear with the engine off will not prevent the tractor from moving. To set the parking brake, lock the brake pedals together with the locking bar, depress the brake pedals, and pull up on the parking brake. The parking brake lever keeps the brake pedals down. To release the lever, push down briefly on the brake pedals. When one wheel starts to lose traction, engage the differential lock by stepping on the pedal. The tractor wheels must be turning before engaging the differential lock. Unequal traction will keep the lock engaged. When the traction equalizes, the lock will disengage itself by spring action. If the lock does not disengage, depress one brake pedal and then the other. Welcome to ODOT's Heavy Equipment Operator Training, where you will learn how to use the machines that build and maintain our highways. This video series is by no means a replacement for your manual. It is simply a visual aid in addition to the manual. Tractors are the workhorses of our highway crews, taking on many tough jobs in extreme heat and cold. Tractors are used by ODOT's maintenance workers to mow, grade, till, scrape, and drill using a variety of attachments. Today, we will learn how to safely operate and maintain tractors and their attachments. We will be working with the John Deere 6115D, If you are working with a different tractor, refer to the manufacturer's equipment manual for details on your machine. When you get to work in the morning, you must perform a complete daily walk-around inspection on the tractor you will be using. This process will ensure that you don't damage the machine due to neglect or have an accident due to a preventable mechanical failure. First, open the hood of the tractor from the front of the machine. From here, you will have immediate access to the air filter and battery. Unlatch the air intake manifold and open the cover. Carefully remove the air filter and examine it for wear and dirt. If the air filter is damaged or clogged with dirt, replace it with a new air filter. If the air filter is in good operating condition, slide it back into the air intake manifold and fasten the latch securely. Keep dirt and debris from accumulating on the grill to help keep the engine clean. Next, check the battery. Unscrew and remove the battery cover. With the battery cover removed, you will be able to visually inspect the terminals for corrosion. Check the connections for tightness. If there is corrosion or a loose connection, it must be addressed at this time. If the battery is clean and the connections are good, cover the battery and tighten the screws. Move to a position where you can access the oil dipstick. Remove the dipstick, wipe it off with a clean rag, reinsert it into the sheath, and remove the dipstick again. The oil level should be between the min and max marks on the dipstick. If the oil level is low, you must add oil at this time. From here, you can also check the fuel filter water separator. Drain any excess water from the filter. Check the hydraulic oil level by visually inspecting the sight glass. If it is low, add hydraulic oil at this time. If you have a 3-point hitch and attachment connected to your tractor, check all of the links and link pins. Confirm that the hitch points are properly connected and the link pins are secured before you begin work. As you walk around your tractor, you should visually inspect all of the tires as well as physically inspect them with your hands. Look closely for cuts or breaks. Check the lug nuts on the wheels with your hands to ensure that they are tight. It is very important to check the tires for proper inflation. Check the operator's manual to confirm that they are inflated to the correct pressure. Grease the zerts on the tractor with a grease gun so that all of these points will be well lubricated. If you have a 3-point hitch attached to the tractor, lubricate the grease zerts on the 3-point hitch and check them for damage as well. The coolant reservoir should be filled between the min and max marks with engine coolant. Inspect all engine hoses and belts for cracks and breaks. Make sure all the hoses are securely connected. Ensure that all the belts are tight and free of damage. Clean the cab completely before operating the tractor. Dispose all trash and remove all loose items that could be safety hazards during operation. Thoroughly clean the mirrors and windows for maximum visibility. Use a stepladder to safely clean the mirrors, side windows, and windshield. Make sure that your slow-moving vehicle or SMV sign is clean, unfaded, and visible in the proper place on your tractor. Check all of your lights to make sure they are working. First, check your headlights, brake lights, and both turn signals. Then, check all of the safety lights installed on your tractor. All tractors must have a working, non-expired fire extinguisher on board. Check your extinguisher and confirm that it is charged. You are also required to have a complete first aid kit in your machine. Make sure that it is fully stocked and replace any missing items. Fill the tractor's fuel tank before work. Do not fuel the tractor while the engine is running. Remember that smoking is not allowed near the fuel pumps. For your personal safety, Oklahoma legislation prohibits a state employee from using his or her cell phone to text while driving a state vehicle. You also cannot use any tobacco products while on state property, which includes your tractor. As a heavy equipment operator, you may think that your top priority is running the machine, but in fact, your primary function is safety awareness. Safe operation is the most important thing to keep in mind when working with your tractor. A machine out of control can cause injury or death. Always be safe on the job and look out for potential hazards. The operator should not wear loose clothing or jewelry and should always wear the required personal protective equipment. Across the U.S., getting on and off equipment and in and out of vehicles accounts for 1 out of every 4 injuries to those operating equipment or driving trucks. Some of these injuries are quite severe and can easily be avoided. Always use 3 points of contact, 2 feet and 1 hand, or 1 foot and 2 hands in contact with a handhold or access point at all times when entering or exiting the equipment. This may sound simple, but it is often not practiced. After you have safely entered the tractor, always buckle your seatbelt before starting the tractor. The seatbelt can save your life in a rollover accident. It is very important that you only use the tractor for jobs that it was designed to perform. Using the tractor inappropriately can result in serious injury or death. Never lift a person using your tractor's hydraulics. Do not stand on tractor attachments or use them as a platform. Also, never let anyone ride on the tractor as a passenger. The tractor can accommodate only 1 person, the operator. When you park the tractor, always lower the hydraulics all the way down. If the hydraulics are down, an attachment cannot fall and cause an injury. We want everyone to go home in one piece. Thank you for watching ODOT's Trucks and Attachments video. This DVD contains several video segments that will assist you in understanding the maintenance and operation of your truck and its attachments. This DVD is by no means a replacement for your manual. It is simply a visual aid in addition to the manual. We'll be covering the operation, inspection, and maintenance of a 10-yard dump truck, as well as its attachments, including the snowplow, the sprayer, the spreader, and the trailer. But before we focus on the truck and its parts, let's focus on you. Since 1937, ODOT has lost over 50 employees killed in the line of duty. That's why the department cannot stress enough how important it is to stay safe and alert. Safety starts with you. A simple but effective way to be noticed is highly visible clothing. Safety vests are mandatory on the job. ODOT requires you to wear the ANSI Class 3 safety vest when you're not in your truck. And don't cut off sleeves because that will make you less visible. Also, wear a highly reflective hat that's bright and clean enough to catch people's attention. Depending on the job description, you may have to wear eye and hearing protection. If you're not sure, check the standard operation procedures and the personal protective equipment list of the job in question. Any ODOT employee who's required to drive as part of their duties must possess a valid Oklahoma driver's license. If you're a transportation equipment operator or a fleet specialist, you must possess a Class A CDL. Having a driver's license also comes with the responsibility of knowing when you shouldn't drive because of fatigue, medical condition, or medications. Be sure to notify your supervisor of your condition. For your personal safety, Oklahoma legislation prohibits a state employee from using his or her cell phone to text while driving a state vehicle. You also cannot use any tobacco products while on state property, which includes your truck. Another way to stay safe is knowing the equipment you're working with. Start by reading the operator's manual and familiarize yourself with the type of truck you're driving. Always use the 3-point rule to enter and exit the cab. Either 2 hands and 1 foot or 2 feet and 1 hand should be supporting your weight at all times. Always wear a seatbelt and obey all traffic laws and safety precautions. Practice defensive driving at all times and keep your lights on when traveling. Common sense is key. Never haul people in the dump bed or on the running board. Similar to the pre-inspection, the following actions will help you stay safe while operating the truck. Keep the windshield, windows, and mirrors clean at all times. Keep your truck clean. Keep trash from rolling around in the cab, especially around the pedals. Clean slippery materials off your shoes to prevent slipping on the steps and pedals. And set the parking brake and block the wheels when you're parking the truck. When you're on the road with an ODOT truck, you're more than just a driver. You represent ODOT. That's why it's important never to make derogatory remarks about your equipment, your colleagues, or the department in general. Your actions as a driver make a lasting impression on the public. Make sure it's a good one. When you're on the road and miles away from your maintenance office, the last thing you want is a truck that breaks down and leaves you stranded. That's why a pre-start inspection is so important. Before you get started, make sure the wheels of the truck are chalked or blocked. Don't rely on the parking brakes alone. Blocking the wheels prevents accidental or unintended movement that can crush and injure workers. To properly chalk a freestanding truck, place chocks between the left and right rear axle wheels. Do this anytime you're loading, unloading, hitching, unhitching, or performing maintenance or service. When you get ready to start your day, simply walk around your truck and do a visual inspection. Start by checking the condition of the tires. Always check the pressure when the tires are cold or have been used for a very short time. One way to check the tire pressure is by bump checking the tire with a thumper. A properly inflated tire produces a sharp sound when hit, and the thumper will bounce back sharply. If a tire is significantly underinflated, the sound will be more of a dull thunk, and the thumper will not bounce back so well. Of course, bump checking is not a substitute for using the tire gauge to check for proper inflation. Check the operator's manual or the outside of the tire to find the proper tire pressure and use the tire gauge to confirm your tires are at the manufacturer's recommended level. Besides tire air pressure, the tire tread depth is another important part of tire maintenance. Oklahoma state law requires that all tires on a dump truck must have a minimum of 2 32 of an inch of depth. Additionally, the front steering axle of a truck tractor requires tires to have a minimum tread depth of 4 32 of an inch. Check with your maintenance department and borrow the tire gauge to make sure the tires are in accordance with the law. Insufficient tread on a tire can cause a blowout and possibly hydroplane the truck. Finally, check that there are no bulges, bumps, or knots shown in the tread or sidewall area, and that the wheels aren't cracked and are securely fastened to the hub of the vehicle. Whatever the type of tire wear, report it immediately to your supervisor. Your driving style will also prolong the life of your tires. For example, don't spin the wheels when you start driving or skid when you step on the brakes. Also, try to avoid running over curbs when you're turning corners or parking the truck, and avoid riding the edge of the pavement. Road and weather conditions can change quickly, so adjust your driving style and speed, and always keep a safe distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. Keeping your distance and anticipating having to stop at all times is a perfect example of defensive driving. After you finish the walk-around and with the engine cooled off, open the hood and check the oil and coolant levels. If the level is low, fill the reservoir with the proper fluid. Wipe off all the grease fittings and lubricate them according to the operator's manual. Double-check the tightness of the drive belts and check the hydraulic system for possible leaking lines and connections, bent or kinked lines, and lines rubbing against other parts of the engine. Also, make sure that the connections and insulation of electrical wires are in proper and safe condition. Next, look at the battery. The factory-installed battery is maintenance-free, and under normal conditions, the electrolyte should remain at the proper level. To check the level, look at the indicator light on top of the battery. Green means normal level. Black means the battery is insufficiently charged, and transparent indicates not enough electrolyte and the battery needs to be replaced. It could happen that you need to jump-start another truck or other piece of equipment when you're on the job. Here are some guidelines to do it correctly and safely. Make sure the vehicles are not touching and that the ignition on both vehicles is off. While wearing the proper PPE, connect the red jumper cable to the positive or plus post of the dead battery. Then connect the other end of the red jumper cable to the positive or plus post of the live battery. Next, connect one end of the black jumper cable to the negative post of the live battery and the other end of the black cable to an unpainted metallic part of the vehicle with the dead battery. When the cables are connected, start the good battery's vehicle and then start the dead battery's vehicle. After the vehicle with the discharged battery has started and is running again, disconnect the jumper cables in the reverse sequence from the hookup. When you're finished checking the battery, take a closer look at the air cleaner. Remove the air filter cover and clean the filter if necessary. Next, climb in the cab using the 3-point rule of contact. Either 1 hand and 2 feet or 2 hands and 1 foot need to be in contact with the truck at all times. Check the brakes and make sure that the air tanks have been drained, and engage the foot pedals and make sure they work right. Collect any trash that's left in the truck, especially on the floorboard. Trash can roll behind the pedals, get stuck, and jeopardize your safety and the safety of others on the road. Make sure you have a clean windshield and that the windshield wiper reservoir is filled up. Wiper fluid may seem like just a cleaning product, but in reality, it's a safety device allowing you to drive in rain, snow, and many other inclement conditions. Also, check the condition of the windshield wiper blades and have them replaced if necessary. Check your mirrors and adjust them if necessary. Check all the levers, gauges, and controls on the dashboard and make sure everything looks correct. It's important to be seen, so check the head and tail lights as well as the turn signals and safety lights. And when you put the truck in reverse, make sure the backup warning signal is audible. Finally, check your seat belt, horn, two-way radio, and first aid kit, and make sure the fire extinguisher isn't expired. Back outside, make sure the hoist of the dump bed is working correctly, and check the dump bed itself. A pre-start inspection may seem tedious, but when you realize the average price tag of an ODOT maintenance truck is around $120,000, You can see why preventive maintenance and a pre-start inspection are so important. With over 500 maintenance trucks in service and a price tag of around $120,000 per truck, it's easy to see why ODOT tries to keep its trucks on the road as long as possible. A truck should run for more than 225,000 miles, but in order for that truck to last that long, it must be properly maintained and operated. And that responsibility doesn't just rest with the mechanic. You need to have a basic understanding of the truck you're driving and its parts. Imagine breaking down. You call the shop, but you have no knowledge of the engine or its parts.
Hey, something's wrong with this truck out here. I'm down on the side of the road.
How helpful and patient do you think that mechanic is going to be?
You can't tell me anything? You can't give me a clue what's wrong with it?
I don't know. Can you just send someone out to look at it?
All right, we'll send somebody after it.
Mechanics work on major repairs and replacements, but as the driver, you are responsible for the walk-around inspection and servicing of the truck. How can you do that? First, follow the maintenance schedule. For example, an oil change. Don't wait weeks or even months after the due date to schedule an appointment. The operator's manual will also have time and mileage recommendations for scheduled maintenance, so don't hesitate to open it up and take a closer look. Here's a list of what to look for during a preventive maintenance check. Top to bottom, visually inspect for broken, worn, or missing parts and possible leaks. Around the engine compartment, check the oil level, oil filter, lines, and hoses. When the engine is cool and all the hydraulic pressure is released, check the engine coolant level, the radiator, and its hose and cap. Open the cap slowly to release any built-up pressure. Check the fuel level, fuel filters, and make sure the truck is filled up before heading out. Check the batteries, cables and connectors, as well as the hydraulic fluid level and its filters, hoses, lines, and fittings. Anytime you deal with liquid, make sure there are no leaks. If there are, make sure to clean up any spills. And if you need to add a liquid, be sure to use a drip pan and wear eye protection. If your truck is an automatic, check the transmission fluid level and the transmission pressure, line filter, and breather. Check the exhaust and make sure there are no loose connections or holes. Make sure the clutch is adjusted correctly and that the drive belts are tight and not worn out. Lubricate and wipe off all the grease fittings according to the operator's manual. Pay special attention to the hydraulic lift of the dump bed. Keeping the moving parts greased is crucial to the life of the lift, especially if you're working in a dusty or sandy area. First, prop the dump bed according to the operator's manual. Refer to the video Propping the Dump Bed if you need a refresher on the procedure. Next, fill the grease gun with the correct lubricant and clean off the grease fitting with a rag. Place the gun nozzle on the grease fitting and apply pressure to release the grease. When you're finished, wipe the excess grease off the fittings. Check the tire pressure and the condition of the tires themselves. Check all the safety devices, such as warning lights and the fire extinguisher, and make sure it's not expired. Don't forget about the regular lights as well. Grab a colleague and check the headlights, turn signals, brake lights, and backup lights, and make sure the backup warning sound is audible. Finally, check all the major components, for example the dump bed, and any attachments you may be using. When it's time to drive the truck, allow the engine to warm up for 5 minutes. And at the end of your shift, it's important to let the engine gradually cool off by letting it run idle for a few minutes before shutting it off. Keep in mind, as the driver, you will know first when something's wrong with your truck. There are 4 ways that you can sense a defect. The first is feel. If you're feeling a constant pull to the right or left, a vibration in the steering, brakes that grab or don't hold, if it just doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Next is listen. Listen for clicks, thuds, or clanking noise. If you hear air escape or any other unusual noises, stop and let your supervisor know immediately. Third is smell. What you can't feel or hear, you might be able to smell. For example, burning rubber or burning oil. Finally, look for any defects. Look at the dashboard control and make sure everything's in order. Outside of the cab, a visual inspection from top to bottom will save you hours of downtime in the long run. So take time to not only get to know your truck, but also inspect and maintain it as well. After you have performed the pre-start inspection and maintenance check, it's almost time to hit the road. But before you do, there are a few more things you need to know about. Get in your truck using the 3-point rule of contact. Either 1 foot and 2 hands or 2 feet and 1 hand need to be touching the truck at all times. Fasten your seatbelt and double check that the parking brake is on. Check the axle control knob and make sure it's in the correct position. When you're driving a manual truck, insert the key into the ignition, depress the clutch pedal, and place the gear shift in neutral. Then turn the key and start the engine. Allow the engine to warm up for a few minutes. Be sure to follow the truck manufacturer's recommendations on starting your truck in cold temperatures. Look around you and make sure that you have enough clearance in all directions before you start moving. Depress the clutch and put the gear shift in first gear, while at the same time keeping your right foot on the brake. Release the emergency brake and take your right foot off the brake and slowly press down on the accelerator while releasing the clutch. To shift gears, depress the clutch. Move the gear shift in the higher gear and step on the gas pedal while lifting your foot smoothly off the clutch until you reach the proper RPM. Shift through each gear in sequence until you reach 6th gear. When you have to slow down and to avoid excessive brake wear, practice downshifting. For example, you're in 6th gear and you need to come to a stop. Depress the clutch and move into 5th. Slowly take your foot off the clutch and let the engine do the work of slowing down. Then press the clutch again and shift into 4th, and so on. Some ODOT trucks shift automatically. However, when the truck is on a soft surface like on the shoulder, it's recommended to manually shift the truck in first gear and slowly move forward. You then manually shift to the higher gears or slide the gear shift into the D position. Here are a few more comments about proper shifting with a gear stick. Only shift gears at the proper RPM to avoid excessive or not enough clutch action. Regardless of whether your truck is empty or loaded, do not press down on the accelerator and clutch simultaneously. Never force the shift lever into the next gear. And never drive with the shift lever in neutral or with the clutch depressed. This will disengage the power from the driving wheels and is illegal. Don't let the engine lug and never ride the clutch. How do you know when you're riding the clutch? The excessive heat produces a very distinct smell. It's also very destructive and will cause clutch slippage and is expensive to replace. When you're finished driving, place the gear shift in neutral and set the emergency brake. Let the engine run idle for a minute or two before shutting the engine off so the engine gradually cools down. Turn the key in the off position and safely get out of the truck. Finally, block the wheels and perform a walk-around inspection and look for any leaks and broken or missing parts. If you notice anything irregular, it's your responsibility to notify your supervisor and maintenance department immediately.